In this section, you'll create the services and pages for the user's starter project. Now, let's get an overview. We're going to create the user service, which is responsible for making the RESTful API calls. It will return back a JSON data, which will use our user model to convert it so it's more readable data. We're going to create the user viewer page, which is going to use the layout builder to return the correct page layout, whether it's phone, tablet, or web device. The user list will be responsible to show a list of users' data, and also with the search capabilities using the sticky header delegate. The user detail page, which will be used to show the details selected when you select a user. It'll be a single network image and also the data about the user. Now, you can also have the user list detail split screen page, which will be responsible for the split screen layout that will be used by the tablet or the web browser. And now up next, we're going to do some live coding. Let's start coding our users project, and let's create our user service first. So from the lib folder, we'll right-click, new, we'll say Dart file. Let's create a folder called services. And now let's call this user_service. Excellent. Now I'm going to paste in from the helper file the user service. So you don't have to watch me typing this in. It's kind of boilerplate code. So let's take a look at what we have. We have a class called user service, and we have a constructor. Then when it's called, it's going to clear the users list, which is right here below here. All it takes is our list of users and just empties it out. That's it. Let's see what we have set up here. We're using stream controllers and sinks and streams here to control the data as it's coming in so that it's very reactive, so that the list of users will automatically update as new users are brought in or removed, just in case somebody in the future would like to add a feature to remove users. So we have our users list stream controller, which is going to be our controller for everything, for our sink and our stream. And if you notice here, it's called user list controller, and it's just a stream controller. And the type is a list of users. Then we create a getter, which is the add users list. And if you notice, these are all private to the class, so they're not exposed. And this is the sink. This is how we add the users in. And it will take the controller, users list controller.sync. So we'll add the users to the stream controller. And then if we want to listen to the stream, if you notice this is public, it's not private, because our pages are going to start listening to this. It's going to be a stream of list of users, okay? And then we have the user list, which is a list of type of user. Now also, as good citizens, we use our dispose, and we're going to dispose our controller when the service is closed and no longer needed. Let's scroll back up. And we also have an add user method here, which you're going to pass a list of users. Add users to list, right? So we're going to take our users list, which just is our list of users. We're going to add it, whatever users list has been passed in. And then what do we call? That's right, the sync. Add users list, add, and we're going to add this particular list. Now, I've also added this refresh current list topics method for you here. It is not used in the application. Just in case in the future you want to refresh the current list with the current users, you would just call refresh current list, and it would just re-add the list to the users. All right, and next, if let's say we want to clear the list, because perhaps we're roaming around and the internet goes on, we want to clear the list, right? Or any other reasons. You'll call the method clear users list. It will empty our list, right? Our list of users. And it's going to add the users, right? An empty list, so that we'll have no list of users. And our biggest really feature here, our biggest method, I should say, is a future list of users called getUsersList. So when the application gets run, we call the getUsersList, and it's going to go out, right? We're going to set results body equals, it's going to have an await, it's going to call the API service. And if you notice, this is under our shared package, right? It's going to call the method getSearch, and it's going to take our API URL that we have set up in this particular project, the users project, and it's going to return a result. And once the result comes back, we're going to have the results here, which is a list of users. We're going to take the user model, right, which we already reviewed in the last video, the last section, and from raw to JSON, right, we're going to take the raw and convert it to JSON, and we'll have a list of users. We're going to check and say, okay, if the result is empty, we got some issues. We'll show an error code. Otherwise, go ahead and add the users, which is this list of JSON files, and return the list. Excellent. And this will be the user service. Now let's close this down, and let's go into our pages now. Let's work on our user details page. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to create this, and I'm going to import the code in so that you don't have to watch me type it in. So let's right-click on Pages, go to Dart File, and let's create the user underscore detail. Okay? So this is going to have our user detail. All the details about the users, the name, so on, the image, and all of that. So let's take a look at this, and you'll have the code from, of course, the helper file. We created a stateful widget called user detail. It has one final field, so we're going to pass in what? The user. So when the user selects the list from the users list, which we'll create next, it will pass on the user to the user detail page. And what does the user page has? We have just a scaffold. We have an app bar, right? And it's just going to show the app bar. We're just going to show the first name. That's it. And we're saying, let's use the title large and let's make that name bold so it's very apparent. The body, I always like to use the safe area widget. And then we have a single child scroll view that would, depend on how the details are vertically, it will automatically scroll any excess content. And we wrap this into a column, right? And we have some children here. And we're saying, all right, we want to first show the picture of the user, an image. So we're going to check if that image, if the image is not empty, then let's go ahead and show the image from the network, right? Let me just save this so that it formats a little bit more nicely for us, okay? So what do we have? If it's not empty, we have the image network. It takes the user image. I just said the box fit contain, the height, the image height, which remember we got this from the shared package, right? And we're going to have the width. We're just doing a little calculation. We're saying, okay, media query size off. Why am I using media query size off instead of media query of context? Because if you use media query of context, every time the rebuild is done, it rebuilds that. But when you do a size off, it's only rebuilds when it needs to. So this is only executed when it's needed. We're going to take the width, right? And we're going to say this is what the width of the image is going to be, whatever our details screen is. And there's just a little loading builder. It's going to be pretty fast in our case, but if let's say it was a huge image, you would want to put a loading builder so that it would say the loading progress. If it's already done, return the image. Otherwise, show a circular progress bar. And let me scroll that up there, okay? Collapse it. Otherwise, if the image is empty, that means we don't have an image. Let's just show an icon of a person pin rounded, which is this particular icon right here of size 128. Very straightforward here. And then we're going to add a padding, okay? About 32 pixels all around. And then we're going to have a column. So we have the image on top. And then we have this column here. And let me just collapse the side here. That way we can show on the side here what we're looking at, the actual layout of our details. And what are we showing? The column has a text widget of first name, the email, and the university. And that's all there is for the user detail. Now let me close that up. And let's work on our users list. Okay. So we're going to create the users list here under our pages. So let's go ahead and do that. Pages, new, start file. And we'll call this user underscore list. And again, I'm going to paste this in. You can get this code from, that's right, the helper file. I'm going to collapse the side here. Let me just save it so that it formats nicely for us. So let's take a look at what we have. The users list extends a stateful widget. We have 3 final fields that are being passed in. A Boolean, whether this is mobile, so are we running in a mobile environment or not? And the user viewer will tell us whether this is mobile or not, which will be in 2 pages from now that will create the user viewer. And then we have a list of users, right? And we'll call that user list. And then we'll use a value notifier of a type user called user details notifier. So anytime the data changes, the value notifier rebuilds only the data that changed. Extremely, extremely performant. I love using those. Let's look at our state side here of our widget. So we have a build, right? And what do we have on the build here? Let's just collapse some of these items here. So we're saying, hey, this is the user list, right? If this is web, then what do we want to do? Because if it's web, we want a list detail screen, a split screen, right? And we want to navigate from the user list screen, not from the root of this, because we don't want to navigate away like it's in a mobile environment. So we're going to use a nested navigator. And what is a nested navigator? So what we're doing is we're just going to say navigator. We're going to say on generate route, right? We're going to generate our route. And we're going to say we're going to use a material page route, our default material. And on the builder, we're going to build the user list custom scroll view. That's what we're going to navigate to. And we're going to pass a few variables. If it's mobile, the users list, and the user's detail notifier, which has the user details. And I will show you when we run this on the final project, how the nested navigator comes into play, where in the widget tree it is inserted. It's a very useful feature, especially when we use a split screen scenario. And if it's not web, if it's just mobile, then we're just going to navigate directly. We're just going to show the users list custom scroll view, which I'll show you in a second here. It's just a stateful widget, which is going to be what? Just a list of users, right? And we're going to pass these variables again. Is mobile, these properties, users list, users detail, modifier. So let's take a look at our users list custom scroll view. It's a stateful widget. Like I said, we're passing these 3 variables from above. And what does that extend here? What do we have? So we have the list of users, a search users list. So if the user decides that, hey, I want to search this list, we're going to have a list set aside just for the search. And then we're going to say, hey, is the search visible? In other words, are we searching? We're going to default it to false. And then we're going to have a search editing controller, a text editing controller to search so that the user can type in the search parameter. And we have one method called search change callback, right? And it's going to receive a filter, in other words, what the user's typing in, like John, Mary, whatever they're coming in, right? And we're going to do just a set state. And it's going to say what? The search users list is going to equal to our users list, the full list. And we're going to do a where clause. We're going to say, well, the first name contains, and we put everything to lowercase so that we can do a easy search, right? And we're going to filter it, right? And we're going to say to list. So all we're doing is filtering out by the first name. So our search is by first name of the user. Excellent. And what does our build look like? So we have a custom scroll view. That way we have a scrolling list of users. And we have the sliver app bar. It's just going to have an avatar here, an icon with the menu on the left-hand side, right? And if you press it, it's just going to give us a show about dialog, just a standard show about dialog that comes with our Flutter framework, okay? Let's collapse. I want to show you one more thing about, let me collapse here the leading. Let's look at the action. We have a circle avatar, right? And this is going to be our search icon. So on the right side, on the actions, the user is going to click the search icon. And when it's pressed, it's going to say, hey, is search visible or not? Okay. If it's not visible, show the search editing controller value should equal to false. Because we want to start with a fresh nothing in the search screen. Otherwise, okay, the search users list is going to be the same value as the users list. So when we start to search, you'll have the full list available to you. And then you start searching from there. All right, and these are just basically sliver up bar, like stretch to true, pin to true. I'm going to force it, elevate it. And I want to expand that height to be the height of the screen divided by 4. Okay. And the collapsed height just to 60 pixels. I'm just going to use a flexible space bar, okay? So that when the user stretches especially in iOS, you'll be able to see this. When the user stretches the header down, you'll see the image enlarging. In Android, it's going to be more of a small stretch. The title is just going to be user viewer. That's it. And we're going to do a little shadow so that it looks nice. The user viewer over the background image. All right, we're going to put a little padding, just 4 pixels. And then we're going to have the search. This is how we build the search here, okay? So we're going to use a sliver animated opacity. So when we click search, this will animate the sliver persistent header, which contains the search sticky headed delegate with the search text editing controller. And we'll use 300 milliseconds animation duration. Opacity, if the search is visible, right, we'll do to 1.0 opacity, which means visible, otherwise to false. We're going to use the curve of ease in. And the sliver is going to say, okay, what are we going to show here? If the search is visible, then show us the search sticky header delegate, which comes from our shared package. Excellent. And we're going to pass 2 values, the search editing controller and the search on change callback function, which we declared above. And we're going to say pin true. So when the user scrolls up and down, it will be pinned to the top. But if the search is not available, right? If we're not searching, what do we want to do here? We're just going to show just a sliver to box adapter, a size box. In other words, we're going to show nothing for the search capabilities, okay? So it'll be just nothing there. And then the last item is our sliver list. And we're going to use a separated sliver list. That's going to say, all right, what's the item count going to be? The item count is going to depend on if the search is visible. If it's visible, the item count is going to come from the search users list. If we're not searching, it's just going to take the users list length, okay? And for the item builder, we're going to use a list title, which I love using. It'll be a text. And again, it's going to say if search is visible, either show the first name from the search list or from the regular unsearched list, the full list. And if we tap, what happens here? Okay. So when we tap, we're going to say, hey, is the search visible or not, true or false? And we're going to tell our user detail notifier the value which it's visible or not visible. And we're going to pass the search users list at the index available, right? Because we're tapping on the list title, and we want the detail to be either a user that was searched or a user that is not searched from our regular list. Now we're going to do one more item. If the widget is mobile, then just go ahead and call the navigator, right? It's going to navigate to the detail screen in the mobile environment. The list page goes away and the detail comes up. And that's all we need to do. And if it's a tablet or desktop or web, there's nothing else to do because we already told our detail notifier for a split screen, the detail that's sitting on the right side, to say, hey, refresh yourself, I got a new value. And then the last thing is the separator builder. It's just a plain divider. Excellent job, guys. And this is our users list. Let me close this down. Now it's time to declare and create our users list split screen, which is going to be our split screen, right? For what? That's right, for tablet and possibly desktop and web. Let's right click, new. Now this one is going to be a little bit of a longer name, but I like to use names that are very descriptive. User list, detail. So it's going to have both, right? The user list and the detail. And we'll say this is the split screen that you would expect on tablets, right? And web and desktop. Now let's just paste in the code. Let me collapse the sidebar. Okay. So I'm just going to save this and let's go over this. So this is the split screen, right? And it's just a stateless widget. That's it. It's going to have two values passed in. The users list, which is a list of users, and the user detail notifier, a value notifier of type, that's right, user. And let's look at our build command. It's going to be a row containing a left and a right side of the split screen. So what do we have? On the left side, we have the list. And we're going to have it as a sized box, right? So we want to size the left side to the sidebar width value, which we get from our, that's right, you guessed it, shared package, right? That's where we have our default value. If you ever wanted to change this, you could, right? You can just replace this with any value that you like to make that sidebar list smaller or bigger. And what is the child? It's just the users list, right? That's it that we created previously. We're going to pass whether this is mobile or not. Because this is a split screen, we're going to say, no, it's not mobile. It's tablet, desktop, or web. We're going to pass the users list and the user detail notifier. Very good. And then what do we have? Just a vertical divider, right? So that we have a vertical divider between the list and the details on the right. Let's take a look at the details. What is it? It's just an expanded widget because we want to expand the detail to the full size of what's available left over from what the list is taking up. And what does it have? Oh, yeah, I love these. Value listenable builder, right? Of type user. So anytime the user detail notifier is changed, right? In other words, a new user is selected, all of the user section gets refreshed, right? So the image gets refreshed and what? The user detail gets refreshed, right? And the builder, what's it doing? It's got a build context, the user and a child. And all we're going to do in the builder is this, just return the user detail with the user selected. Excellent. And let me close this down. And let's open this up because we're going to create one more page, right? We have one more page to create. And what is the last page that we need to create? In our case, it's not really creating, is it? We want to what? We want to modify the user viewer. Okay. So let's collapse this. So let's work on our user viewer. It's a stateful widget, right? And what do we want to do here? Okay, so let's work on the state side. And I'm going to go ahead and paste these items so that you don't watch me just typing in these default values, okay? And I'll go through them. And let's go ahead and bring in the connection service, right? This is from our shared package, our user service, and the user model. Okay. Let's bring in the user model. Very good. Okay, and let's save this. So let's go over. What do we have here? So we're going to have the connection service, right? Which is where in the package, the shared package. Then we have the user service here, right? So we will initiate the user service. And then we have the value notifier of type user, which we'll call user detail notifier. It's private to this widget only, right? And when we initiate the default value, in other words, this is the user's data that is going to be in the details, right? On the right side of our split screen. We want to use those default blank value for the user. We want to show nothing there because no user has been selected yet. It just loaded the screen. So let's take a look at the init state. What are we doing? Super init, right? That always gets called first. And then our own initiations. Let's initiate the connection service. So the connection service, we're going to pass the clear data list and the get data list, right? Which in our case is user service. We're going to clear the users list, right? I'm going to click on that, which is what? It just empties the list. That's all it's doing. And the get users list, let's click on that. It's getting their users list, right? From our RESTful service using the API URL that we have in the API service. Excellent. And then what do we do? Oh yeah, we're going to check for connectivity, right? Because we want to make sure that we do have internet, right? If we don't have internet, we cannot retrieve anything. And if we don't have internet, we will show a message that says, hey, there's no internet connectivity. So we'll call the method here, check connectivity, retrieve user. And it's going to take connection server. It's going to check, is the connection available, right? Yes or no. And it'll act accordingly. And that's going to keep a watch on the connectivity. So while we're working, if it changes, the connection service will call the display message at the internet, whoop, we just lost internet, or do nothing because that means the internet is available. Very good. Let's scroll up a little bit more. So let's look at our dispose. As good citizen, we want to dispose the user service. And in the dispose, yeah, you already know this. You call your own dispose methods before the super disposed, right? That's very, very important. So now, what should we do? Why don't we work on the build method, right? So let's replace the build method. And I'm going to bring this in so you don't have to watch me type, okay? And what is the build method? It's going to have a scaffold, right? Safe area. I love using safe areas. In this case, the top I'm going to say false. I don't want you to use the safe area because I want the image to go all the way up. And then the child is just our stream builder of type. That's right, list users. Our initial data is what? Just an empty list. Nothing. And our stream, right, it's going to take our user service and it's going to listen to that user stream, right, from the stream controller. And our builder, it's got the builder context and an async snapshot of what? That's right, a list of users. And we'll call that snapshot. So let's do a few things. First of all, if the snapshot has data equals false, in other words, we don't have any data yet, so go ahead and show the circular progress indicator. So it shows that, hey, we're loading, we're getting the data. Next, if the connection service is connection available equals false, in other words, hey, we got nothing, let's import the status message from our shared package library, right? And so if the connection is not available, there's no internet, you can't show anything. We'll say, okay, internet connection is not available. And for the banner message, we'll just say none. And that just shows these colors for the banner color and text color. Okay? So we're going to have two checks. If there's no data, show circular progress bar. Hey, I'm loading. If there's no internet connection, say, hey, no internet connection available. But if we pass those two checks, then we know that we have data. So we'll say the list of users, we'll call this users list, will be equal to the snapshot required data, which is what? As you can see there, it's a list of users, right? All right. Let's bring in the responsive layout builder from where? Our shared package. That's right. As you can see now how important it is to have the shared package where multiple applications can share from the same widgets. Let's also import in the users list, right, that we created previously. And also the users list detail split screen. Let's bring that in. Okay. So let's take a look and see what we got. So the responsive layout builder is really what's responsible to say, hey, are we running on mobile? Or are we running on a web, a desktop, or a tablet? So if it's mobile, it's just going to return the users list and pass the value that, yep, hey, this is a mobile environment. And it'll pass the users list and the user detail notifier. Excellent. But if it's web, desktop, or tablet, what's it going to do? That's right. It's going to pass the users list detail split screen, right, that we previously created. And it's going to pass what? The users list and the users detail notifier. Excellent. You've now created all of the files that you need for the user project. So what should we do now? Why don't we try and run it? Let's see what it looks like, right? And let me just refresh here and let's get some devices running. Here we go. Let's open up Pixel 6 here. Let's open up the running devices. Let's go ahead and run it. Let's see what we get. I'm going to hide this here. Let's run this. And here we go. Yep, supports hot reload. We are aware of that. Hey, look at this. It is working. And here's a list of all our users, right? The top menu, users viewer, just default, search. Hey, here we go. And look, the sticky header looks really good, right? So if we say, let's say we say, as you can see how it's automatically searching, right? And if we click the search again, it clears it for us. If we click on a user, there we go. Looking good. Let's click some other people. There we go, right? And what happens if we turn? Look at that. Very responsive, isn't it? That's looking real good. Excellent. All right, so let me close this down now. Let's stop that. And why don't we run this on a tablet, right? Let's run it on the Android tablet. Here it is running. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's see what it's looking like. Let's see what it looks like now on the tablet. Let's collapse this. Oh yeah, there's our split screen, right? So what happens if we go sideways? Oh yeah, it knows. It knows it's a tablet. It knows how to do that, right? And everything else is still working as it should. So excellent, excellent job. And let's stop this also. And now, why don't we try to run this on a web? Here it is running on the web. And you can see we have a blank record not selected. And I'm running in dark mode. And here we go. As you can see, it's actually going out to the web and retrieving all our items. And all this should still work. Looking great, right? That's an excellent job, guys. So now here's the beauty of the web, though. It knows the responsive design. Look, it became mobile. So if you're running a mobile device, the web here, look at that. It knows how to do that, right? It knows that, hey, I'm in a mobile environment. But what happens if we stretch back up? Look at that. Now it knows that we're on a tablet, web, right? Or desktop. Excellent, excellent job, guys. Let's take a look at light and dark mode and connectivities. So let's enable dark theme. Switch back to the user's application. There we go. Dark theme. Working beautiful. We'll switch back to light mode. And here we go. Working great. Well, what if we lose internet connectivity, right? Let's go airplane mode. What happens? Oh, yeah, it knows. Internet connection is not available. None. So if we turn it back on, beautiful. Works great. Let's get a summary of what you've done. You created the user service, which is responsible to make RESTful API calls and retrieves back a JSON data, which will be used the user model to convert into more readable data. You created the user viewer page, which uses the layout builder to return back the correct layout for either phone, tablet, or web. You created the user list page, which shows a vertical list of users and also to be able to search capabilities using the sticky header delegate called from the shared package. You created the user detail, which has a single network image viewer and also details about the user. And you created the user list detail split screen page, which is the layout for tablet and web devices. Up next, you'll be opening and reviewing the Imported Products project.